All right, take it now from 5. Eva DeHuino, better known as Tokyo Rose, will touch American soil in a few moments and will immediately be taken into custody, or she has already been taken into custody by the FBI. She's a very small, rather attractive Japanese girl wearing a thin plaid suit. She's being whisked off into a car by the provost marshal. The photographers are crowding around her trying to get photographs. The newsreel cameramen are here. If you were unaware of her identity, you would suppose that she was one of the most famous movie stars in the world. There are crowds here that have been standing since 9 o'clock this morning waiting to see Tokyo Rose, the girl who undermined the morale or tried to of our boys in the Pacific. She has already gone, and there are a lot of disappointed cameramen here. The television studios from NBC are here, represented by newsmen. We were unable to get close enough to Tokyo Rose to even speak to her or to get any sort of reaction from her at all, but we're fortunate today in having on the scene the two men who were responsible for Tokyo Rose signing a confession. They're two very famous correspondents. I know that you'll recognize the names of Harry Brundage, who was formerly with Cosmopolitan. I believe he's now on leave from Cosmopolitan magazine, did a wonderful job during the war, and Mr. Clark Lee of INS, who I understand is also on leave. Is that correct, Mr. Lee?
That's right, I'm writing a book.
I am very anxious to hear the story that you gentlemen told me a little bit about earlier this morning, because I think it is a story that the general public is not very well informed on. Mr. Brundage, I understand that you and Mr. Lee were responsible for getting the first confession from Tokyo Rose. Can you tell us about that?
That's correct. Clark Lee and I went AWOL after we sat down at Atsuki Airport, went directly to Tokyo, and found Rose the next day. Got a 17-page statement from her, which Clark Lee was standing by my side typed. She admitted many things. She admitted some things that are now today considered overt acts, and it is that statement that the government is predicating its case upon. Mr. Lee and I didn't get that statement signed that September day in 45, but I went back at the request of the Attorney General last March, and Rose willingly signed it. She just shook hands with me as she came off the boat and recognized me.
I noticed that.
Mr. Lee and I were saying a minute ago that her arrival after 7 long years back on this long voyage home was a bit different when she sailed from Los Angeles port the 5th of July, 1941, when she left third class with a few relatives waving their hands to say goodbye. Today she was greeted by this battery of cameras, news, reels, stills, the young lady here with the microphone and some others, a group of reporters and a crowd of curious. I want to say thanks, and I want Mr. Lee to say hello.
I want to know about this book you're writing, Mr. Lee. I know that many of us who have read your reports through the years are very anxious to hear about it.
Oh, this is a little different from my previous books, which were war books. This is a biography of the last Queen of Hawaii.
Well, interesting. You've just taken a little different tack on it.
Yes, I have.
Well, since we are down here to talk about Tokyo Rose this morning, I wonder if you could fill in just a few of the gaps. I was told that she had made this confession and that she had signed to the effect that she is the only Tokyo Rose that was ever in existence. Is that true?
Well, yes, she was the only girl known as Tokyo Rose, and she made clear to us. There were a number of others on the 0-hour program, but the name Tokyo Rose was never used until she came on the program, and it was applied to her alone.
She had a following that any person in radio might envy, but I understand she didn't make much of a salary. Do you know how much she earned?
$6.66 a month.
In
Well, then-
American currency.
Well, that is hard to believe. She must have been doing it because she wanted to then. How do you feel about that, Mr.
Well, she
Brundage?
told us that if she hadn't done that, she would never had a chance to appear before the mic. Remember, Dick?
Oh, that's a sad commentary on people who want to break into radio.
Well, you must
After
remember
all,
what she studied at UCLA.
Oh, tell us about that. I realize she was graduated from UCLA.
She majored in zoology,
And
but she specialized in herpetology,
herpetology, what is that?
the science of snakes.
Well put, Mr. Brundage. I guess we shouldn't convict anybody before the judge gets a chance to do it himself, but it is interesting that so much publicity is being accorded this young woman who is going to be tried for treason. Do you know what the penalty is for treason, Mr. Clark
Well,
Lee?
if she's found guilty, the minimum is 5 years and $10,000 fine, and $10,000 fine. The
How
maximum,
will,
of course, is death.
How'll she be able to pay any such a sum as that? I understand she has no American money and her family is in rather ordinary circumstances.
If she's convicted and given that sentence, I believe she can plead poverty in court, and the fine will be.
Oh, I see. The maximum penalty is death, is it not?
Yes, but I don't believe anyone has been put to death on that charge in many years.
I don't recall reading of any case. Did you feel that Tokyo Rose was a little gay today, or are we being unfair?
No, I
After
thought,
all,
she was on the point of tears. It looked that
Did
way
you?
to me. She tried to hide her head as much as she could, and she was behind that burly FBI man.
it was difficult to see her. I thought she was very attractive and appears much younger than she does in her pictures.
Well, she looked smaller than when I saw her last, and more worried. Well, that's
She may have
understandable.
lost a lot of weight.
Yes.
Well, what do you think will be done with Tokyo Rose now? Will she be sent to prison? She'll be actually locked up on the ship. I understand that she was able to eat in the mess and had privileges that would
I
not be
believe,
accorded anyone who is in prison.
She'll be taken down and arraigned and charged, and then will be confined, I think, until she's either indicted or released by the grand jury.
Well, it is certainly wonderful to be able to talk to you, Clark Lee, and to you, Harry Brundage. After all, you were responsible for bringing this girl to trial, and I think that all of us who are interested in America and America's future are very anxious that whatever is put out over the air or in our newspapers is representative of the type of thing that this girl did in Japan seems to us to be inexcusable. However, we'll let the judge decide that. That's the American way. Thank you so much.